So this is some crazy shit, and I can't believe we having another conversation about this. But there's two problems. One problem is people still don't understand the definition of snitching. That's one problem.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I get why, because with street terms, this is why we need to write the Criptionary. This is why, because I think people Google and it's like you can't trust Google with street, with slang, with culture. Like it's Google. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm not writing for Google, maybe I need to apply to write all of the slang parts for Google. Like all cultural things for Google, they need to come. Like I need to pitch. I need to send them niggas my resume, bro.
I agree, and we could do you could do the Criptionary, and then to keep it, from being one and done, you could have the Cripcyclopedia, where your new volumes continue to come out all the time.
I like that. That. Or the Sea Cyclopedia.
Yeah, Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, the Sea Cyclopedia. The Sea Cyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, so they used to have Britannica. We're gonna be Britannica.
Britannica. Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, one, they don't know the definition. They don't know the definition of snitching still.
Yeah. I think it's deeper than that.
But two, you know what else it is? It's people who, okay, when you start living your life in the streets, right? You are raised in the culture of things. It's not so much that somebody sits you down the first day. I mean, no different than being Italian, right? Nobody sits you down and say, "Hey, Pete, this is how you be Italian." Hey, Pete, it's like you learn over time the culture. So also you learn the nuances of it. Now, there are rules that when you're talking to people outside of culture and you say, "Hey, these are the rules," you try to give it to them in a real brief kind of like in a really simplistic way. So like culturally, when you start talking about any level of street urban culture or criminals, period, don't talk to the police is the general context of the conversation. Do not make statements to the police. All right. Don't make statements. They'll simplify, say, don't talk to the police. Now, that doesn't mean the police that drive by your house, you can't say hi, or if the police say, "Hey, what's going on?" or you can't say hi. That it's a nuance that shouldn't have to be explained because culturally you're raised to understand it.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to call you a snitch if somebody breaks in your car, right? If somebody breaks in your fucking car and steals your shit, if you call the police and get a police report to get your insurance, nobody's going to call you a snitch. Yeah. Nobody's going to call you a snitch. But even though the rule to the general population when we talking about this is don't talk to the police, that's not what that means. And it's tough because it's nuances. And that's my problem.
Hold on a second. Hold on. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm doing this live. I was told 2 o'clock. It's 3:22. I'm in the middle of recording. So, great.
Do we need to pull back a minute? No worries. No worries.
It's Jackie's fault. We were here an hour ago.
He's an idiot. He's a worthless idiot. And this place sucks. You want to move in and go for it.
Why is that sound?
You're not going to get a night's sleep as long as you're here.
There's noise.
There's noise. Everything's, the sound installation's terrible. The light installation's terrible. I didn't want to drill into the walls and ceilings to hang new curtains, but the blinds are closed. It's brighter than that at 6 in the morning. It's fucking believable the shit I gotta fucking put up with. Like I don't fucking pay fucking rent here.
Chill out. This is great. Chill out. It's okay.
No, I'm taking that thing with me. There's a cheap piece of shit one in there that I had to take off because that one sucks.
As in the thing you hung up there?
That's mine. That's coming out.
Thank you so much. Sorry about
Yeah, have a good night.
Have a good weekend.
Fuck. Shit. This shit's unfucking believable.
That was great content.
Florida state law lets my shit when you pay for a fucking lease, you buy the time and the space. I pay every last fucking red cent out of this lease. Apparently, Florida state law allows for showings while I'm fucking here. So I've been displaced out of my place 3 times this fucking week. This idiot comes in last week. Oh, I want to come back tomorrow and bring friends to look at it. Do you fucking pay the fucking rent here? You want to bring friends into my fucking place in the middle of the fucking day so your friends can fucking look at this shit? You fucking pay rent here? You don't pay a red fucking cent here. And the lazy piece of shit fucking realtor, the first time hits me up, hey, could you, I can't make it. Could you do the showing for me? Are you fucking paying me? No. Last week, I fucking leave. Or yeah, yesterday, I fucking leave, right? I'm fucking way down Biscayne. Hey, are you here? You didn't ask me to be here. You didn't tell me to be here. Why would I be there? Oh, well, I didn't bring my key. Why not? Don't you have a key? Yeah, I just didn't bring it because I thought you were going to be here. Can you come back? Can I come back? Fuck you. Yeah, I'll come right back. So I can drive all the fucking way 15 minutes back. And I show up. And by that time, they've left and he's there. So we get into it. And then he hits me later. They want to come back again with their friends today. Can we come at 2? Yes, we can come at 2. What time is it? 3:20 when they fucking show up without his lazy fucking ass who wanted me to do this shit without him for free fucking again. You got to be fucking kidding me.
Man, Florida can't be all great. They got to have some downfalls.
The only 2 fucking problems is this stupid fucking apparently I have no fucking rights to the place I pay for law and the roads. They suck dick with anything that has to do with cars, roads, bridges, or wheels. Anything that has to do with driving and transportation on the ground is awful. And this, everything else, phenomenal.
Okay, well, at least it's 2. That shows you fair. That shows you fair. You are fair. You have some criticism for Florida, the state, but the other stuff is great, and that's what we're gonna focus on. That was great content, though. We should have. You know what? We're gonna keep that content and have you narrate that shit. Like, what is it like, and let you just vent.
If I narrate over it, it's going to be me saying the exact same things I'm saying over the exact same things I'm saying.
That's great.
That was the narration.
No. See, you didn't talk sometimes. Sometimes you were just furious.
And I'm fucking sick. Yeah. So I'm getting kicked out of my spot 3 times this week, and I'm fucking sick. I got to set an alarm yesterday to wake up because, again, as you heard, you can't fucking sleep in there.
Why can't you sleep in there?
Because they got these cheap fucking ass windows, and the people here, they're just cheap, right? So they put in those cheap office blinds, the aluminum ones, but it keeps out no light. It's white tile floors, white walls, white. It's like being in the inside of a disco ball in there by about 6:15. On top of that, it's got those old windows. They rattle in the wind. I had to take, what do you call it? Junk mail, fold it up and jam it into the window frames to keep them from fucking rattling, but they don't keep out sound.
Did you already find a new place?
Yeah, I'm out of here in 2.5 weeks. I've fulfilled my financial commitment, and I'll be the fuck out of here. Okay. After my year of Soviet sleep deprivation torture has been completed per my sentencing.
Okay.
So anyway, snitching. As I was
no, this is great. This is great because we definitely gonna use that. But I'm glad we backed up because it gave me another thought.
Sure.
It's when we're trying to translate the culture to the uncultured. That's the problem. It's like trying to tell someone who doesn't have soul how to make soul food. Like if you see people, like if you see old sisters, like old black women cook, they don't need a measuring cup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you watch an old Northern Italian lady make a pizza, you know what I mean, that came from the ghettos of Italy, she doesn't really need a measuring cup. She just does this shit, right? And when the uncultured try to do it, they need a measuring cup because they don't have the years and years of not just experience, but the lineage of soul to connect to. And that's the thing with street urban culture in general. Like, it's certain things that we know without even having to say. Like, I watch so many people it's been so many conversations over the last week or two about people talking snitching stuff. And it's just irritating me so much because it's simple. It's fucking simple, but I'm starting to realize, Pete, it's only simple to me.
Sure.
If somebody called the police and reported it to their insurance company and said somebody broke in their car, I know that's not snitching.
Yeah.
If somebody, you know what I mean, even if a gangster knew somebody was raping or a pedophile when he called the police, I wouldn't call that person a snitch. Nobody in the community would call that person a snitch. They might call him a bitch because he didn't kill the person who was the pedophile, but they're not going to call him a snitch. They're not going to disassociate themselves with him because he told the police on a pedophile. They're going to call him a bitch because they're gonna be like, why you didn't do nothing to this motherfucker?
Sure. I'll go a step further. The way it boils down to me when I look at it, you have, as you said before, if you're in the underworld lifestyle or whatever, you're committed to that. That's where you are. You have a responsibility to uphold that lifestyle.
It becomes your standards.
100%.
Sure.
Similarly, if you're in general society, you have a responsibility to uphold the standards for that lifestyle.
It's a tradition.
Yes. And they're both necessary for the sustainability of each world.
Sure.
If you're not testifying and doing your job to clean up your normal world lifestyle, you are failing in your commitment to your community. If you're snitching out and corroding the underworld, you're failing your commitment to that community. You know?
Yeah.
So therefore, if it comes down to people failing to buy into who exactly they really are. If you're a square, you shouldn't even be allowed to say the word snitch.
Exactly.
You shouldn't even. It's not even your business to criticize somebody else for snitching because they're doing what is supposed to happen in your world. You should be happy about that.
Exactly. I have said something happened with Drake where he got robbed at that whatever that Asian food spot in Toronto that Kendrick made popular. Newhall King. I forgot the name of it. Shout out to Newhall King. They got the Kendrick special or the K-Dot special, whatever. But Drake got robbed there, right? And he called the police. He gave a statement, right? Somebody asked me why didn't you say nothing then? And I'm like, I'm not saying nothing now. Drake should have called the police, reported it to the proper authority because Drake is not thugging. You know why I never cared that Lil Wayne had a problem with Drake oversleeping with the girl, or why Puff put his hands on him and he didn't fight back, or why T.I.'s man pissed on him and he didn't do nothing. You know why I never had a problem with that or never called Drake out of his name over that? Because Drake is not that kind of person. He's a general population person. Now, I can get if he's starting to confuse himself, if he's starting to walk the thin line, because when you look at certain things like what's going on with them and the XO camp, you know, the weekends camp, and a security guard at one of the primary people's house, Cash House, right? Cash House gets shot, and then somebody at Drake's at the embassy in Toronto, the same security guard that works, not the same security guard rather, but a security guard that works almost in the same position, he gets shot. Now I'm starting to worry, like, bro, are you playing street? Like, are you playing street? Like, this is something you don't play with. Like, yes, you have tons of money, tons of resources, but that's not what this is about. Like, they will find a way and they will break you down if you didn't grow up in this culturally. It's not something you pick up and play with. You know what I mean? That's why I never called him a snitch, because I knew he was a part of general population. You know what I mean? In Gunna's situation, like, see, I don't know him, but I'm listening to what he's saying. Now, Drake is different because I do kind of have knowledge of who he is. I've met him. I've interacted with him. Some people I really fuck with interact with him. So I know he's a part of general population, minus all the conversations. Gunna shit, you hanging around some pretty unsavory characters that's really good guys in my world. And you're saying you're a Crip. So I'm taking you at face value. Now my homies is telling me, like, Glasses, no, he has never been in this life. And he's like, you remember he had the Crime Stoppers video where, or the video on the news where his cousin got shot, and I'm like, yeah, that's true. It's like, you think we would have let him come up in the world of hip hop and talk that shit if we thought, you know what I mean, he was like us, and then he told or he did that video, that would be a problem. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, but why would y'all? And then it hit me like, of course, hip hop is not going to get in the way of people that come from the community trying to change their life economically. You know what I mean? We understand they stand up dudes, but it's weird when you see people that don't tell you anything. So, like, it's crazy to learn, like, now, like, oh, he's not like that at all. He's just not like that. So now it's like, damn, well, is he a snitch because, you know, he you know, because he folded on Thug and took a deal where he had to admit, where he said other people around him, first off, in a RICO case, if you admit someone's a gang, you're pretty much making them lose the case, because that's the point. And if you admit crimes were happening in the name of this alleged gang, guess what? That's you helping them convict on a RICO charge. Now, if they're gonna be able to hit him with all the rest of the stuff, it's different. But if you're telling me now that Gunna never been that, then shit, now I look stupid, because it's like, oh, this is a general, my bad. I thought he was like us. I thought anybody who's talking like this, and then I had to kind of correct myself because Drake is talking like this and I know better.
Sure. Some of that, it's like, well, if you're not, you know, with that lifestyle, you shouldn't even have the knowledge, you know. At some point, why are you even able to viably testify about any of this shit if you're not? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
it's like
he should be insulated from enough viable information. Like, if you're responsible, if Thug's responsible and stuff like that.
Sure. Why would you have this?
Why you got squares playing tag along and doing ride alongs like it's, you know what I'm saying? It's not an internship.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thug probably did mess up. If he was in any of that situation, Thug messed up. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise it's like, are these people you know, credible criminal syndicate? Yes. Why do you think that? I don't know. I heard that they were. That's not the most viable testimony. I was there when they did A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Is more viable. And there you have it.
It's crazy because as much as I tell Head all the time, I'm like DJ Head, like, you came up in the streets, so you know the rules. Like, Head very much is somebody who came up in the streets. Now, has Head ever really committed crimes? I'm sure to some degree, like some minor infractions. You know, he's a skateboarder, so I'm sure he skateboarded at some places. But Head understands the rules. But you're right, as somebody that's thugging, I would, like, when stuff would happen, I would tell Head, like, hey, if this go down, go get the car. Just go get the car. Yo, if something start, just go. He like, Glass, I'm not no punk. And I'm like, it's not about being a punk. Like, I think you'll fight everybody here. I don't think that you are scared to have a fist fight. You a man. I said, but if it starts to become something illegal, I don't want you to have to put these things, you know what I mean? I don't want to have to put you to task to where you see these things now. Now you have to stand up somewhere that you really kept yourself out of all these problems. Hell, Pun, you know, shout out to Pun, shout out to Means and different people that I know that came up from the same background like me, thugging. I wouldn't even let them get in trouble. Shout out to Shad's new Cali catering. When Shad would be around me, I wouldn't even let them get in trouble. I'm like, my goal for y'all is to get you out of the same trouble. Like this got me out of the troubles that I was in. So I wouldn't even let them get into shenanigans or try to start fights. I'm like, hey, calm down. We didn't come way up here to do the same thing we was doing around the corner from home.
Sure.
So
and there's exposure in both ways. It's like you bring people around. Now they're exposed to being some loosely defined participant. So it exposes them to risk, which they're going to want to offload, which exposes in turn you to risk.
Well, it brings me to my thought, and it's with how long would you say? Now, it's not fair, Pete, because you very much are general population, but you have an edge and you do have a nuance about you that can understand a little more layers than the average person, the general population, about street life. And I think it's because you're somebody who has truly self-appointed, like you have shame and you have dignity. Like you know what I mean? You carry
way more shame. Way more shame.
But the
Just
fact
so
that you
clear.
have shame in 2024 when they're trying to purge everyone of shame says a lot about you. So I can honor you. I'm honored to have this conversation with you, even as a
Respect
person.
this shame, God damn it.
Exactly. You feel me? So how long would be a good enough time? How long would be a nice amount of time before you take a person that's in the underworld or in a criminal lifestyle and then they change their life and they become a person in general population to where they can run a business and use the police assistance like any other taxpaying citizen in America? How far removed do you have to be from thugdom?
Depends on the person and depends on the circumstances. I mean, I'll say it could be 24 hours. If you're doing square shit and you're done with that and you're going to deal with square things in a square way, then that's what you do. If, you know, if you still have old beefs that come after you or whatever the hell, then, you know, how you want to settle those is how you want to settle those. But like if you did whatever 2 years ago and it hasn't expired yet, you know what I mean? But you've changed your life, you're still liable for those things that you did when you were in that life. You can't walk away from that and now testify on them because, I'm out now. You did that on the day that you did that. So that's with you as long as that thing is available to be with you. But
that's fair.
You know, but once you're done, you don't have to, you know, somebody wants to threaten and extort you because you opened up a hardware store and you're done. If you're done and the people around you who you did stuff with acknowledge that you're done and it's cool, then go ahead and say, hey man, blah, 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 Petey, I'm being extorted by Bob over there. I'm just trying to run a square hardware store now.
Do you think you have to separate from the crowd? I was thinking about that, right? Like, is it fair to say you're not thugging if the crowd you still is hanging around is thugging? You know what I mean? Because
there has to be understanding. The crowd has to know that you're not, and you have to know that you're not, and you have to understand it's cool to play dominoes at the barbecue, but it isn't cool to ride along in the shit if that's not what you want to be involved in. Because I've been at enough of those things with enough of those people, enough of those times. People know my limitations, know what I do and don't do.
Sure. I was thinking, same thing. I was just thinking about it, and I was like, Bun B is going through this case, right? And somebody tried to, well, they did a home invasion on his home, and the burglar or the perpetrator ended up getting shot. This is 2019 roughly. So they ran up on Bun and his wife Queenie. Shout out to Bun, real stand up brother, always has been. Rest in peace, pimp. But is it wrong that I look at Bun? Bun has been so successful for the last 20 years. You know what I mean? Even before that, I'm talking about since I've met him and Pimp and them, right? They've been successful for so long that I know Bun is not of this life anymore. Now, I think Bun lived a life at one time that was a little bit more street, but I don't think Bun has lived a street life in, I don't know, 15 years at best. You know what I'm saying? This man opened a burger franchise. You know what I mean? He's been a successful rapper, you know what I mean? A pundit on television shows when it comes to black issues and rights. And I saw somebody post him on the stand and him crying, going through this deep memory of how it has messed his wife up to where, you know, she was really shook because somebody came into the place that's supposed to be private for you.
Sure.
That's supposed to be private for you. You know what I mean? And somebody came and invaded that space and it left a crazy, you know, like effect on his old lady, you know what I mean? On Queenie. And it's like, he has to tell because this is part of his case. This dude got shot. It could put Bun in trouble, you know, him defending his household. And I saw a thread of people, young people who work at cubicle desks calling him a snitch. And I'm like, this is the problem. This is why I made that big deal out of declaring Drake is not hip hop. Because you have to understand the type of people that can be held accountable and that should be speaking for the culture of this life. Because if you have people that speak for this culture that don't quite understand it, even if they don't have the same opinion as me, they have some kind of opinion that's rooted in a level of that's not fear. Like it's too many people speaking on things based out of fear. But back to the Bun. So it's a thread of young people who probably work at cubicles calling this man a snitch. And I'm like, that's not what that means. And it's so frustrating because it's like, bro, like it's a really simple thing if you was raised into it culturally. And it hit me. It's so many black people in America that are not culturally involved with shit. They are really Americans. They are fucking Americans. And I'm talking about Pete, real Americans. I'm talking about American. They as American as America. And they feel like because their skin is dark or because white people don't like them, that they are a part of the culture. And it's like, no, fool. You're getting treated like that way because white people treat everybody that way that's not white in America. And some people that's white in America, they mistreat them. And just separating black culture versus black experience. I keep saying this. Black culture is how people treat each other. The black experience is how somebody treats you, right? Treats black people. But if you don't treat other black people in this way, how do you talk to them? When I see a brother Pete, it's a way I speak to him. It's when we cook, when we eat, it's a way we eat. It's things we do that create the culture of what being a brother in America is all about. It's not just being mistreated by white people. Mexican people get mistreated by white American people. Every fucking body, Italian, Irish, people get mistreated by the white person in America. And I'm not saying one gets treated worse, or I'm just saying everybody feels that mistreatment. So the experience cannot be the thing you hang off of, which is why people feel entitled to judge this man and think that they have a right to even use this fucking term in a way that's incorrect and fucking silly. Nobody from the streets would ever call Bun a snitch in this situation. Nobody that ever grew up in our life, Pete, not even people with sense like you who didn't grow up in this life, you would use sense and be like, that's different. That's different.
Sure.
Like people wonder why the nuance of what's going on with Cowboy, you know, Nip's big homie from 60, Thundercat, right? they don't understand that there's a nuance that we all know as people that really lived in the streets. We'll look at him like, I'm gonna just stay away from that one because it's a little more tricky. What was said in court is a little bit more tricky. You know, talking to the police, it's nuance. So you usually just stay the fuck out of it because you don't have the details and it's not your business to politic on. You know what I mean? But again, if people want to make it like there's this fine line of what's snitching and what's not, then you don't understand the line.
Yeah, and I think, you know, from an outsider's perspective, there is a degree, a portion maybe of the Black community that has a little bit of identity crisis insofar as how they want to perceive themselves. And if they're not really in the quote cultural epicenter of the community, then I think there's some validity to the idea that hip hop has provided them access to being or feeling like they are a little closer to the epicenter of the community than maybe they actually are. And they don't really might so much know the nuanced difference between the two. So they take what they hear, distilled lines or whatever, out of context from their access bridge, and then, you know, take them and run with them beyond the narrow confines which they exist in that epicenter.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's the tricky part about when people say hip hop is Black culture. I get the gist of it. Shout out to Tariq, another brother I really respect. I mean, everybody knows how much I really Hidden Colors is just like, man, just incredible. And so I'm a huge fan of Tariq, and I talked to the brother, brilliant dude. So he just did a really dope film on hip hop, and it talks about the hip hop's Black roots, right? Which, in fairness, is true, right? And I get it. And I have to be okay with people saying hip hop is Black culture. I don't necessarily, I think we could get a little bit more detailed. You know what I mean? But I think it's I get it. We trying to hold on to something, right? But truly, hip hop is street urban culture personified through the arts. Truly, it just happened to be, Pete, at that current time in New York, in the Bronx, Black people made up 98% of street urban culture. You know what I mean? Things the way we lived, you know, the spades, the Black gang, the way we live created all of the slang, all of the dancing style, all of the graffiti style. 98, 99% is just us. So I get why people need to hold that. And really, it's more general population Black people that feel more entitled to it than, because when you come from the ghetto, like where we live, which hip hop culture comes from, it's natural. You don't even think, you almost mistake that everybody Black talks like this. It's like when I would walk somewhere and I would speak slang to Black people and they didn't get what I was saying, it would almost fuck me up because I'd be like, you don't get what I'm saying? Like, and it hit me that the ghettos make up this really small population in this country. Like when people say LA is not dangerous, I'm like, LA is dangerous. And I'm like, well, Los Angeles, the city is huge. It's not just Watts or Compton, like where I grew up at, or Long Beach, you know what I mean? The county or, you know, the city, forgive me, including Long Beach in the city, but I'm saying like Brentwood is in the city of Los Angeles. Pacoima is in the city of Los Angeles. Hollywood, San Pedro is a neighborhood in the city of Los Angeles. So there's a lot of places in Los Angeles that are not exactly like Watts or Compton. Don't get me wrong, they could have some shit, but it's different. And then some of these places don't have no shit going on. Yeah. So more times than not, there's not a bunch of crime. You know what I'm saying? So I have to remember the way that I grew up and people like me grew up is not the standard for America. That's what makes hip hop special. Listen, almost every state in this country has Black people. Every state in this country has Black people. I'm not sure every state in this country has a ghetto. I'm not sure.
Yeah, depending on your definition.
You know what I'm saying? Where they have the ghetto things happening. Like, I don't think every state in this country has a ghetto. It can change. Because I know certain places, like when you start getting to that western part that's close to the Midwest, them Dakotas and certain places like that. Like, I know Omaha has a ghetto, but North Dakota, I think the ghetto, if I remember correctly, would be like Indian people. Like, it's more
I
of
was
a
gonna say, you
tribal.
start getting into those areas, you're on the
Yeah,
reservation.
where it start being rural. And that's why I'm saying in that regards, a ghetto is in a city. It's a densely populated thing. It's not really
You
a
might get
rural.
you might get some really down and out small, white trailer park communities that are just they're
But
just
if
on
it's
the
not
government.
densely, if it's
Whatever.
not, ghettos are in cities. Like, there are a poor life that's hella rural.
Yeah.
And so it's different. It's still a little different, if that makes sense.
No, and that's on a unrelated note. I found it so odd driving back or in and out of the state of Alabama to go look at some properties in Montgomery a few times,
Mm-hmm.
where you actually pull up on these tiny little like truck stop towns with a 7-Eleven, a gas station, and a general store, and public housing projects
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the field. It's in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, they got more rural projects out here. I don't know how the hell this even happened. And I was like, boy, if you were born there, God, that's got to be the most uphill battle in this country. Not only are you poor in the projects, you are geographically a long fucking way from exposure to anything else. You might as well just tell your kids, look, kids, I probably shouldn't have had you, but you're here. Your game plan is graduate high school, join the army, get the fuck out of here. It sounds like a shitty thing to say, but I mean, my God, what else are you going to do? What the fuck else are you going to do?
But you have to take that serious, because it's like, even growing up in Watts, it feels like success is far and it's close. Success is so far, but it's so many people, it's so distracting. You don't realize how close it is because it feels like it's infinity. No, that
You can
town you
take the
talk about
grain
in
to
Alabama,
Manhattan Beach.
yeah, that town you talking about in Alabama, that is the real deal version of that. Whereas, like, where the fuck is success at?
Yeah, I mean, not only like you can't see success, like you are so fucking far, and the cost, the actual cost to just go see where any kind of innovation is happening at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would shatter your budget for a month just to go see where things are happening somewhere in real life.
Yeah, that's a real fact. But yeah, it started just to frustrate me, man, and sometimes that's how I know I'm getting older and wiser. I'm getting older because some of this shit is starting to be stupid and it's pissing me off. Too many things is starting to be just stupid and pissing me off. But I'm getting older because I can also tell I have enough wisdom not to argue. I have enough wisdom not to inform people of their silliness. It's like, you're not really even you're not special enough to even you're not gamed up enough to even have this conversation. You can't even digest what I'm finna say to you. It's like when I talk to certain people, if I can't talk to them like me to you, like if I have to talk, because people are, especially in today's time, because people are different in front of other people. So social media makes people feel like they're in front of other people. So you can't have a real conversation. I mean, people are guarded. They putting on the show because they don't want to be viewed socially in a certain way. So you have to have these conversations in person. You know what I mean? So like, I couldn't go down that list of people and talk to them and say, hey, man, that's not how snitching works. And then use my 140 characters on X and explain to them why. You know what I mean? Because they're too busy defending and worried about social perception to be educated on the topic.
Sure.
They don't want to, again, shame, that not having shame. You know what I'm saying? And people don't want to admit they're ignorant on something.
Yeah.
They just want to have content. They want to provide content. They want a following. They want people to follow them, even though they haven't done anything worth following.
Yeah. And I think, some of the challenges with aspects of like the culture or hip hop or whatever, however you want to describe it, is there's not a really good line. Like a lot of rappers, they're cool. They're like, I've never met a rapper who didn't have like a lot of personality or very interesting to talk to. You know what I mean? You can't do that if you're like a deadpan, whatever the fuck, just bump on a log. And the stuff they talk about tends to have, in a lot of cases, some criminal elements to it. And I think a lot of average listeners, they can't separate the two. They see, wow, that guy's really cool, and he's talking about this, so this must be really cool. No, the guy is really cool. He's talking about this, but he's really cool. You don't have to do this to be cool. You can just like the guy or be like his personality, and you're still cool. You know what I mean? So that they start to conflate and they don't understand shit.
Yeah, I know. Forgive me, and I was about to.
I said that really badly. I fucked that up badly.
No, but I know what you mean. But it's also like when people talk about drill music, the average person who hears drill music, especially when the narrative is being guided, oh, it's just murder rap. And it's like, that's not what's going on. Like, you're listening to little kids tell you soldier stories, right? Like, it's like if our grandpa, like if we was on a porch in 1949 and our grandfather had just came back from World War II and he was telling the stories and he was telling us how people were dying, we wouldn't call it, oh, you just telling murder stories. Yeah. We would give credence to what he's talking about, because in our mind, we would respect the war. I think most people don't hear drill music from Chicago and really respect the war. I respect it because I know how people get. I know how fights happen, and I know how you have to defend yourself. I know how far it can go. So when I hear it, I hear the nuances of, of a soldier. Like, I don't want to hear Jeffrey Dahmer rap about eating people. I mean, there's actually a rapper that used to be like that.
Yeah. I think that this is kind of where that murky, like poorly defined glamorizing and glorification of violence conversation comes in, because you have a cool person telling a bad story in a cool way. So so I think people think, oh, they must be saying that the content in the story is cool because they're cool telling a story in a cool way. And it's not like that.
You know what it is? And I know you hate this, Pete, because but just think about it.
Sure.
You one of my buddies, bro, who as a white man, you do care about nuances, but I do know that no matter what, it's gonna be certain places that's gonna be like, why don't, and you're not gonna say, Glass, I don't know that. You're gonna have you're not gonna be like totally vested and just make some shit up, but you won't get, you know what I mean? It's something you won't see. But let me try it out. You ever notice how people respect cowboy stories and all cowboys are criminals?
Yeah. This is, I say this about my whole monologue about the difference between the perception of film and music.
Sure.
You could make a movie about cowboys and the mafia, and it's a great movie.
Exactly.
You make a death metal song and a rap song about decay and death and depression, and you're going to court because somebody committed something, and they're going to say that they did it because of your music, and now all of a sudden you're civilly liable and getting sued. It's unbelievable.
And it's crazy because you're right. It does happen to rock groups. It used to happen to rock groups, but there's some of
like Ozzy Osbourne getting sued because kid committed suicide, and it's the same thing. Like I understand, and it's but I know what you mean. Like if you shouldn't be begrudged because as Ice Cube making a song about South Central, and you got a problem because Kurt Russell, or not Kurt Russell, would be because Val Kilmer played Doc Holliday shooting people up in Tombstone.
Yeah. It's almost like,
what are we talking about?
If rock didn't exist, I would almost be worried that it'd be racial. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not good at that conversation, but I was talking to somebody and they was like, Glasses, man, you make that music is bad and you glorify. I'm like, where's the glory in it? He's like, you make that music. I'm like, bro, you're a huge fan of The Godfather, cuz. Yeah, but it's sophisticated. It's not sophisticated. and it was like, I was like, you think
give me your money or I'm gonna blow your brains out. Yes. Give me your money or I'm gonna blow your brains out, no matter what part of town it happens in.
Kill my father, I'm going to kill all of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do we like? But I almost feel like because they see white people they be like, oh well, it's on the level. The criminal, it's better. They're more sophisticated. I'm like, bro, they are savages. Like, and it goes back to my initial point of hip hop being street urban culture. It's why people name themselves after old white street urban legends.
Mm.
Al Capone.
Interestingly, though, not cowboys.
Yeah, but I'm on it. I was thinking about it. Gangbangers are just modern day cowboys out west. That's all they are.
Hell yeah.
Right? But how many movies? The cowboy era probably lasted 40, 50 years. It's not 200 years of cowboy stories.
Nah, it really was just, I think a lot of, it was just like Civil War Reconstruction, people going west. So you had a bunch of disparate criminals that were just leaving. They do a march through Georgia or whatever the hell and destroy everything. They just bounced.
And I don't want to just make them like they just was some dicks. Like, it was a tough time to be alive at that time and to trying to make it in life.
Yeah, they just hop on a horse and said, fuck it, we're going to go rob some people because we got nothing else to do. We don't know anything else to do.
The death penalty for stealing a horse. That was the death penalty.
Dude, they used to kill you over cheating in cards. At least that's what they say in the movies.
Yeah, but I'm saying it was actually a legal punishment, death penalty if you stole a horse. That was legal. Not like the person horse you stole, the state would kill you over stealing.
Sure.
So, but I noticed there's 100 cowboy movies. They're not even 10 LA. Cowboy culture is nowhere near as polarizing and as known as gangbanging, right? Crips and Bloods.
Sure.
Right? Gangster. But there's 100 cowboy movies.
Yeah. One subtle nuance I will say, though, there aren't that many cowboy movies I can think of that are told from the first person of the cowboy. Usually they're told from the first person of the sheriff.
Well, notice most of the sheriffs, right? My favorite cowboy movie is Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner, who was actually born in Compton. Of course, it's my favorite movie because he's a Compton guy, right?
Shit.
Kevin Costner.
There you go.
Sure. So he was a fucking outlaw. And then, right, he was an outlaw. He was an outlaw. His probably into his 20s.
In Kansas before he became the sheriff at Dodge City and then went to Arizona.
Right? He was on the run, and that's how he became. Mind you, he never was held accountable for what he was on the run for. He was on the run for stealing a horse, and he robbed a man. And back then, robbing a man is one thing, but stealing a horse, death penalty. I'm gonna kill your punk ass. Stealing niggas' horses, right? But he was on the run, and that's how he got the job to become a lawman.
Yeah.
Like, he was on the run. So again, it's like that's the story of every gangster in LA. Like, people don't like, you look at Big U right now. Big U is doing things in the community. He's changing his life. He's getting opportunities for people he grew up with. That's Wyatt Earp. Everybody, Dale Dog ended up changing his life and getting more into business and trying to help his friends make better business, like Wyatt Earp did with his brothers.
Yeah.
And guess what? Wyatt Earp still got into a crazy shootout that half his brothers got killed in. Now, at that point, can we consider it a lawful shootout? Yeah. Just like today, it could be a lawful shootout, trying to defend your life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Trying to defend your life. So I think that's the point. Like, and maybe you got a point, but there is some movies told Billy the Kid was an outlaw.
Sure. Yeah. Billy the Kid, like Dillinger was kind of the first gangster because he was right at the cusp of, I think, like, and Bonnie and Clyde, where they moved from the horse to the car. Those very early cars.
Talk about them and praise them, and them motherfuckers was horrible people.
Yeah, laying people down.
I mean, at least that's the thought based off of today. But I never hear people like, you guys are glorifying, you're glorifying Bonnie and Clyde. It's like, bro, telling a story. There's no glory in dying at the end. They didn't go down in a smiling. Hey, we're getting killed. Hey, it's luxurious. Like, you would think they talk about it like it's like them them bombers from the Middle East who get virgins when they throw that, when they kill themselves.
And interestingly enough, that is one of the things that Bun B discussed at length, particularly in the later work, is you guys are not socially responsible with the lyrics. You need to, if you're going to tell the, the part of the story, the activity part of the story, you have to tell about when you get locked up and how it hurts your family. Like he and Pimp C actually discussed the totality of the story, just ironically, and that we're talking about Bun. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of interesting as they got older.
Yeah, but I also think that's also why those films are not that big. Just like drill rap, I understand why drill rap is not that big. Like as influential as it is and as revered as it is, it's not this commercially successful genre. Like it didn't spawn what G-Funk spawned. It didn't spawn those things. You know what I mean? Because I agree with you. I've always thought about that. Like Godfather is one of the few movies that tell the story. Well, I guess Godfather doesn't really tell the story it tells the story of how somebody became a criminal.
Yeah.
Right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, it's
about
from
the
the inside. It's not like it would be different, I would say, to compare it to The Untouchables, where Kevin Costner, Sean Connery and they're talking about Capone and the mafia from the outside. It does exist from the inside, the same with Scarface from the inside.
Yeah, but I think it becomes a different kind of story. Because I agree with you. I always tell people the reason Colors is so successful, it's not because it's a gangster movie. It's a movie about the police and the relationship between the older cop and the younger cop. Like you talking about Rocky, who might have got 9 minutes of camera time total in a probably 80 or 90-minute film.
Yeah.
You talking about Boys in the Hood is a father movie. It's about black kids with a father and black kids without a father. You know what I'm saying? It's not the first movie to me that was told from the perspective of like Menace to Society. Menace to Society is told from the perspective of the streets. But then again, it's also a coming up story where you see how somebody becomes who they become.
And its acclaim didn't quite reach that of the other ones quite so much. So there's that aspect too. And if you get a chance, and I don't know for you or any listeners that have the Paramount Plus app or whatever the hell, they did a series about the making of The Godfather on there. It was like a 1-season series. It was really cool. I can't remember the name of it, but they actually talk about the behind the scenes play between the producers at Paramount trying to actually get clearance from the mob who was like starting to threaten them, say, you're not going to make this movie. Yeah. And Mario Puzo, Francis Ford Coppola, and these guys, and they work out this thing with the head of one of the families to allow it to happen. And the book itself, but it said this isn't a mafia movie. We will not say the word mafia in the whole movie. They agreed to. It's a movie about family. So they try to make the movie very much about family. You know what I mean? That's how they sold it, pitched it, and wrote it without saying the word mafia the whole fucking movie.
It's still a level of identifying in America. I think most Americans are really simple. Right? I think most Americans are really simple. So it's who you can relate to. That's fair. I'm not mad that white people see black people and they necessarily don't relate to them as soon. Like it's just a little thing. So Godfather, even God, for as great as Godfather is, you know what I mean, and as revered as it is, it's still white people trying to connect with white people.
The only part of that movie that I really identify with is the part where Clemenza is teaching Michael how to make sauce for everybody.
Yeah, let me look at this. Godfather. How much money did it make?
And that was I have a hard time. Like that's one of the things where every year the movie of the summer breaks all the records because every year the prices of tickets go up.
$250 to $300. See, and that's the point. Like I think people can identify even with white criminals. America can. I mean, they white people. I mean, I guess, but it's hard for them to identify with the black outlaw.
Yeah, I think
maybe the greatest black outlaw movies. And that's not even Training Day is a white, clean policeman dealing with a crazy outlaw black police officer.
And it like even in Training Day, and I would say in general, in a lot of speak, I can't think of a lot. The only real movie that I thought was really more about, like, say, criminal stuff, like in Menace. There is an effort in that movie to make the main character's plight seem sympathetic, and you don't. There's not maybe enough time and a lot of like hip hop in the songs to really solicit that. Whereas it seems like there's a more concentrated effort to make, even in Falling Down, it's like the guy's a fucking flipped out. He's a mass shooter running across Los Angeles, laying people down because of God knows what. But they go out of their way to make it seem like he's the victim of all this shit the whole time. You know what I mean?
He kind of was the victim.
He was. But you get what I'm saying. The effort.
Sure, I get it. I don't know. We you know what? We're gonna do another pod and we're gonna talk about that. I want to talk about those movies, those Los Angeles movies. But I
That's
think
what I really
the cultural movies of America, as far as people outside of white people, I think it's hard for them to identify with any of that other stuff. Like Training Day did a great job of telling two stories. Like really, they told one story. They told the story of a dude coming up in the police force. Same thing as Colors, where he's identifying he's just got a crazy rogue cop, brother cop.
Those movies were basically the exact same, except they inverted the power structure.
American Gangster did a decent job. You know what I mean? Because they told the story from the police's perspective and they told the story from Frank Lucas' perspective. I think you have to give white people white lenses to look through.
Yeah, and I think some of this also was the fact that a lot of white people perceive maybe like, if not black people in general, but like black criminals as being like impossibly hard. You know what I mean? Like Frank Lucas throughout that movie.
Me and Nip used to talk about that making gangster rap, bro. I'm like, it's hard for people to identify with us now because they think like we're like superheroes or like we live this lifestyle like, oh, I can't identify with him. He's crazy or he kills people versus until you die and then they're able to be like, oh, he's just like me. Like Nip, where they finally got it after he passed away. But like during that time, like I think about people like Snoop and Ice-T, they were viewed as like super villains. You know, and now the world is just comfortable with villains. But then, like, that's why I think I need to be really mindful as I'm working on music and finishing out my career and then going into another storytelling effort with films or comics to remember these ways of how people told stories and what made people connect to characters. Because, like, I think of a film like The Joker, you know, the Joker film with Joaquin Phoenix, right? It's like they did a really good job of convincing you at why he became a villain.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They did a fucking fantastic job of convincing you why he was a villain.
That was almost kind of like a cartoon-ish type version of like Falling Down. It just this guy just keeps getting just kicked in the nuts all the time, and then just boom.
Taxi drivers like that. Drivers like that. There's a few films where, you know, you see people. There's a few films where you see people like why they become. That's a really tough way to tell a story.
Sure. No, it is. It is.
Especially about a character that we all know.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like if they had made like, say the movie Fences have a turn at the end where like Denzel's character goes and commits like some crime because he's just plain worn the hell out by the commitments, by being a trap, all these things, you know what I mean? And he just gets behind the 8 ball. It's like, I'm desperate, I'm exhausted, I'm tired of too, and whatever. It would almost be something like that, for example, where you'd have to really go out of your way to establish stage setting as to like why, you know, what this dude got put through to want to go do this, you know what I mean, type of thing.